of frustration.
Silly mistakes again.
Full of despair.
I don't even know if I'll have a club tomorrow.
From years of hurt, disappointment, and relegation.
It could be League 2 next season.
Bolton are down, Norwich are down.
Two British football fans have had enough. Canary bird Elliot Holman and Wanderer Henry Hewitt are in search of glory.
Get in!
Pride.
Been a joy to watch.
Passion.
Nanny!
In search of silverware.
MLS Cup champions, baby!
And they found
ATL.
Orlando!
Major League Soccer.
Are we going to have to get that Bolton bit redone where you go, could be League 2 next season? You're already in League 2. What's next?
National League. It could be National League next season.
Can we just get that as a clip? Do that again?
It could be National League next season.
I'll cut that bit out. Welcome along, everybody.
This is the MLS UK show.
The MLS UK show with Lucid FC, a distinctively modern, casual fashion label. Take a look at lucidfc.us or lucidfc.co.uk and see why celebrities love the look. This season's current line is called What's Your Effing Club? Which is your F? Football, fashion, or film? If it's football, you're in the right place. Film, the MLS UK show podcast is now available to watch on YouTube. But fashion, it's always lucidfc.us or lucidfc.co.uk.
Now we've got that out of the way. Welcome along. It's the MLS UK show. I'm Elliot and this is Henry.
Hell, oh yeah, we didn't do that. And I'm Henry Hewitt.
I just got distracted by how out of date the intro was, even though it literally was new this season. This season's been so long and so much has happened that Bolton have been relegated again since then.
Well, that's the problem, because the seasons overlap, even more so this time. Any talk of promotion and relegation becomes outdated after 6 months.
Norwich have also been relegated. Could now get promoted, but I think I'll just leave it because then we'll probably just get relegated again. So
and inevitably Bolton are at least 2 seasons away from a relegation. So at any time, so we might just keep it as it is.
we'll just leave it. It'll be the year 2050, and our teams are still terrible. Orlando's still without a MLS Cup. Who knows what Atlanta will be doing? I'd just like to say how disappointed I am that there's not going to be many get-ins in this episode because the unbeaten run for Orlando City is over.
It is. You clinched your playoff spot, so congratulations.
That's a weird feeling.
About time.
It's a weird feeling. And it happened just after we did the last episode as well. So I've calmed down about that now, but it took 5 years. We got there. Whatever happens from here on in, I don't really care. What a season that is for a club that's been so terrible. So embarrassingly bad for the last 5 years. We've got a playoff spot. It took Philly 10 years to win a playoff game. And look at them now, flying. I don't mind it. We're in the playoffs, fine. Happy with that. It's not quite something that your lot can say yet.
No, we've had plenty of playoff games in our history,
short
history.
Who needs them?
It's like Freaky Friday, isn't it, at the moment? It seems Orlando and Atlanta have woken up in each other's bodies.
Yeah.
And it's not been a great season. And after Atlanta's defeated the weekend to DC United, who were bottom of the conference, they're not now because they won. And I text,
thanks to you.
Yeah, I text you, especially equalising last minute and then still losing the game. I text you saying, that's it, I'm done. It's all over. I can't be bothered with this season now.
He had a strop.
Can we just sack off the podcast until next year? And Atlanta, they've still got a chance to get in the playoffs, but I'm just not bothered anymore. We play you lot next, again. So that's going to end well.
Can I say, right, I know why we've played the local team, well, I say local, the teams close more because of the travelling, etc. But it has ruined it a bit for me. I hated playing Atlanta for the last 3 years anyway because we always got beaten. I am genuinely bored of it. Even if we won every game, I'm so bored of it. Same with Miami. It didn't feel that much of a... there is a rivalry there, no, without doubt, but they're losing their spark. I feel like MLS has always tried to force rivalries upon teams anyway. We've talked about this before, and just repeatedly playing them at the minute is like it is wearing a bit thin. I think.
Especially with like empty stadiums, it doesn't have the same thing to it. And all I'd say with Orlando Atlanta is that you've beaten us now, and as we say in the UK, a good hiding is coming Atlanta's way.
What a great phrase.
I think this will be this time. I think Orlando will finally stuff Atlanta. So I'm not looking forward to it. Luckily for me, it's midweek, so I've got an excuse not to watch it. It's too late. Got to get up early in the morning.
No.
So, no. But, no. So it is Freaky Friday this season.
Okay, let's start as we always do before we have a look at some other results with the game with the changing name. This is where I give you the career path of a player that's played in the UK and over in the States or Canada as well in MLS. You just got to work out who it is. I asked for suggestions because I've kept no record of who I've done, because when we started this podcast, I didn't really expect it to be maybe as successful as it is. Didn't expect to still be doing it years later, and I've completely lost track of who we've done in this game and who we haven't. I asked for your suggestions because also I'm just running out of people. So thank you to Mr. Patel, who sent me an email. It's elliot@mls.show if you want to send one. The reason I give you my personal email is so Henry doesn't see it and cheat. He's suggested a couple of players. So I've chosen one. They started their career in 95 at Christchurch United.
Oh, New Zealand?
In New Zealand. 96 appearances for them, in case you cared. They then moved, this is the bit we do care about, to DC United in MLS.
Right, okay.
2001 to 2005. 81 appearances for DC United. I'll admit, before our time.
Okay.
When it comes to MLS.
Yeah.
However, we would definitely have seen them play for Blackburn Rovers. 2005 to 2012. You look like you know who it is already.
I when you said a New Zealand team, I thought, I think I know who this is. I know. Now you said Blackburn.
172 appearances for Blackburn Rovers between 2005 and 2012. Also, 5 games for Spurs. I had no idea that happened.
I remember that. I remember him playing for Spurs, actually.
And also Queen's Park Rangers, 21 appearances between 2012 and 2013. So you've got it.
I've got it, yeah. Well, Blackburn Rovers, big local rivals to Bolton Wanderers, so you know what your rivals are up to. So I know this player. He was a good player.
I thought when I saw the email, I thought, oh yeah, he played for Toronto. My go-to was just Toronto. He didn't, but it turns out when you check his Wikipedia, he actually managed Toronto instead. So that's obviously where I've got it from.
That's where, I didn't know he played in MLS, but I knew he managed in MLS, so that's where I thought you was going. So, if you know, I know I can. Second episode in a row, I can just put my feet up and relax for the rest of the episode.
Fun fact for you.
Go on.
I might regret not checking this. I think this is a fact. We'll find out. When he played for Spurs, he played in the game where Fabrice Muamba for Bolton had the cardiac arrest.
That was about that time. Yeah, it could have been. Because I can picture him in the Tottenham shirt. It was the one where when Bale played for him first time around.
Yeah. Was it the Mansion sponsor?
I think so. I don't know, but
I'm sure he played in that game.
I think he did play in that game. If you know, like me, and this could come back to haunt me.
We're talking about two completely different people.
Get in touch with us at MLS UK Show. Let us know where you're up to in the podcast when you realise you know. That's Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Or you can comment in the comments below on YouTube as well.
Yes, and if you've got a suggestion for a player to use on the game, then drop me an email, elliot@mls.show.
Yeah, we only seem to get people who are kind of bragging when they know. Like, they go, I found out after 4 minutes. I knew straight away. We want someone, if you're listening to the podcast, if you're on a walk or something, and then it hits you about 18, 19 minutes in, then let us know as well.
I'm going to be honest as well. Do you know we did Kenny Miller last episode?
Yeah.
My dad phoned me a couple of days later. He said, I'm watching your podcast on YouTube. And I was like, I wondered who that one viewer was. And he said, I'm just up to the game with the change name, but I've got no idea who it is. I knew the player in my mind. I could see him in my mind. I couldn't remember his name, and I was driving, so I couldn't even Google it or anything.
You came up with it.
I know. But do you know when something just goes from your head? And for days, I kept forgetting to look it up. And for days, I could not. I was like, Kenny. It's Kenny something. I just could not remember his surname. But yeah, thanks, Dad, for listening. It was Kenny Miller.
Oh, let us know if you know. Right, it's been very busy in MLS. We are into the home straight now as we head towards the playoffs. Not that matters to my team, Atlanta. So let's have a look at this last weekend then in MLS. We're recording this on Monday, the 26th of October, which despite this year being probably the slowest year in history, with us all not doing anything, it still surprises me that we're actually in October.
I know.
Surprising me that we've got this far.
I can't believe it's nearly the playoffs. All the games have been crammed into such a small space of time that I'm like, how are we nearly at the playoffs? It's ridiculous.
So we have touched on it, but Inter Miami beat Orlando. The first is that the first win over Orlando for Inter Miami?
No, it's second.
Ah, right, of course, yeah. Again, all the games just go into one blur.
I conveniently didn't watch the first one because I was on a night out, and so it has been erased from my memory. But the second time they've beaten us, I don't mind. I think the more you play each other, it's like I said at the top of the podcast, the more you play each other, the less important it's becoming, and also the more likely that the other team is going to win. It's the same with Atlanta. We've now played you so much, we were always going to get that win eventually. It was always going to happen. And
Miami, one of the form sides in MLS at the moment, they're in 10th place, so at the moment they're going to be in the playoffs. And I think they're hitting form at the right time. Higuain said recently that he's loving his football again. He's playing with his brother. It's all coming together for Miami, and do I think they're going to win MLS Cup? Probably not. They'll probably have to play too many games to get there, but they could have a good showing.
I also don't think that, I'm not coming out here saying that Orlando are going to win it either. And there's a reason for that, but I don't think Miami are at the level Orlando are at. I think the game at the weekend, it was dreadful. It was awful. Mainly from Orlando, but neither side were incredible. I don't think they're polished enough. I don't think they've got enough experience to go deep into the playoffs. Hey, go and prove me wrong. Great. But I don't think it's their year. But I think getting into the playoffs is a solid first season. I think you have to be satisfied with that. It took Orlando 5 years. I know we've got 29 playoff spots this year. So, the odds were heavily stacked in their favour. But if you're finishing above Atlanta, which they currently are, you've had a great season.
Yeah, as are most of the league. Sticking in the East then, the standout result at the weekend was Philadelphia, 5-0 against Toronto. These are the two sides that are going for the Supporters' Shield, which is now back.
Yeah.
The supporters said they weren't going to give it, and I must admit, I thought it was a bit harsh, that, and I thought, well, out of all seasons, you've got to have a carrot at the end.
My reaction to that was, we're obviously now going to go and win it. That's exactly what would happen. Yeah. Our trophy cabinet would still be there. But no, completely the right decision to reverse that, to not award it. That was ridiculous. It's been a harder year than any year, surely. Whoever wins this year deserves to, at least. But yeah, Philly are my secret team. I love Philly. I'm pleased for them. I think they've kind of been working towards this for years and years, and that's what I like. There's not been major changes. Yeah, they brought in a few players, but it's all been that young crop of players that Jim Curtin has been working with. That's what I want to see Orlando doing, with Pareja in charge as well, is bringing that young young crop through from the academy to the B team to the first team, and I love it. I love to see it. I think, obviously they're in the playoffs this year, but I want to see them go further than last time. I love Philly. I think they're doing. Jim Curtin's doing an amazing job, same as Ernst Tanner.
Yeah, I would love to see him win it, because as we're seeing already, that team is getting broken up, and you just love them to win something, just so we can go, right, okay, we've won it. That team is iconic in Philly, and now you can go to Europe and do your thing. But
also, Montero scored in that game, and my reaction was, oh yeah, I've got him in my fantasy team. I've forgotten about my fantasy team since March. I haven't touched it, because it was like, it was on, then it was off, then they weren't doing it, then they would. I literally haven't logged in since March, and I just know he's the only player I know I've got. Probably Nani as well. I was like, yep, that's good. I'll have some points there. Who knows how that's going?
Yeah, well, I don't know who's in mine. I've not checked. I think Carlos Vea's in mine.
Let's hope you've got no Atlanta players.
Yeah.
You've probably got Vea and Martinez up front.
I probably have, yeah. But Carlos Vea would have got me points this weekend. Finally, he's back. Yeah. And that second goal, BWP assist for Carlos Vea. It's the old school. It's the old days. It's the old days of last season, where them two. Well, BWP maybe not last season, but 2 years ago. And that was good to see. It's good to see him back. 2-0 against LA Galaxy. LAFC. Inter Miami are picking up form going into the playoffs. LAFC now are 4th in the conference. Can easily, well, maybe not finish first, but get to at least. Actually, they'll probably stay 4th. I've just realised, what is it, 2 or 3 games left?
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is, now Vea's back. They're hitting a little bit of form. They got a good point away at Portland recently. Are LAFC suddenly a danger team again?
Of course they are. As soon as you mention the name Carlos Vea to any team that aren't LAFC, they go, oh no, he's back. He's back. And it'll be the same with Martinez at Atlanta as well, who I saw made an appearance at the stadium the other night. I really think it strikes fear into opponents. And they've lost 7 games this season, LAFC. They've not played as many, so that is a lot. But attack is their best form of defence. Let's be honest. They've put all their chips in wingers and attackers. That's where their roster is stacked. And so Vea coming back is huge, because it means that they do more up that end of the pitch. And like I say, attack, best form of defence.
Yes, and LA Galaxy, we talk about them every week. They've had a nightmare season. They've sacked the head coach now. Robbie Keane rumoured to be heading over to LA Galaxy. We've discussed LA Galaxy enough in terms of on the pitch, but off the pitch then, Robbie Keane, how do you think that will go? Because he's a legend at the club, so I guess we've seen it with Frank Lampard.
Yeah.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. We've seen these club legends in England getting head coach roles. Robbie Keane would then go over to LA Galaxy. I think he's been an assistant at. I think he's done stuff with the Irish national team and Middlesbrough as well. So he's getting his experience. Is that what LA Galaxy need? A bit of fire?
It's difficult, isn't it? I think there's no question that he's qualified. If Frank Lampard can go straight into that Chelsea management, I know he was at Derby, but he can go straight into that Chelsea role, which is a massive job. That's a huge job. Ollie at Man United. By the way, Man United, it's a joke. It is a joke. To blame Solskjaer for what's going on, the recruitment has been so bad. I don't have any affiliation to Man United or Solskjaer whatsoever, but to be blaming him for what's going on and going, well, he's spent X amount. He hasn't spent it at all. He's just been told, deal with it. There you go. You got a player worth, they paid however much for Pogba. He just can't be bothered to play. Like, the poor guy. So Solskjaer, Lampard thrown straight in there at the deep end. Why can't Robbie Keane go to LA Galaxy? Absolutely no reason why not. And I think he'll do a great job.
Has that been building up, that rant about Man United?
It winds me up. I know they're a so-called big team. Well, they were 8 years ago. I don't know what's happened. But it just winds me up that they get on whoever. They had Mourinho. They had Moyes. They've got Solskjaer. It's not happening. Like, it's the recruitment. It's the squad. The whole club needs turning upside down and starting again. It's not the manager.
Well, I'll be one of the lucky few watching at Old Trafford against Leipzig on Wednesday. So if I bump into him in the corridor, I'll let him know he's got the support of MLS UK shows, Elliot Holman.
I'm sure he'll be buzzing with that.
Right, if we move over, well, sticking with the West actually then, SKC are top of the conference, 4-0 victory for them. And it's SKC, we knew this would happen. We knew that they would come back after last year, and they would. This is the SKC we've been used to watching the last few years. Let's face it, Colorado Rapids have not played in about a month, so they're always going to win. But they're looking strong, SKC, and they've not really been talked about that much. They've just done their business. Pulido has played well. Johnny Russell's done well as we'd expect. And again, in the West side, you know, we're looking at LAFC, we're looking at Seattle, Portland. SKC could be that team to just go under the radar and go quite far.
I think it's because SKC have lost. They've lost quite a few games, but they're still top. So in comparison to Seattle, I think they've lost a couple more.
Yeah, 6.
Portland, I think they've lost one more. So I think when it comes down to that, you kind of think, oh well, they're not. You see them losing games, you think, well, my money's on Seattle, you know. But they've got a great squad. When they switch it on, they look really, really good. And I like the battle in the West. I like that. I like that we're seeing SKC back up there. Seattle are always there. Portland always seem to be there. And you know, above LAFC, it's great. It's great to see that, because anyone could go and win that league now.
Yeah, and they've only tied 3 games. Have you watched yet Ted Lasso on Apple?
No, I haven't.
Well, if you haven't watched it, I won't ruin it for you. It's very good, by the way, but he's obviously an American head coach that comes over to a Premier League team, and we do the whole thing about, like, why do you tie games? We don't tie games in America. So SKC, one of those. Vancouver, not tied a game all season. So they are.
But they've been very much either one way or the other.
No, that's true. 7th, though, Vancouver. And is that a surprise to you? Can we be surprised at anyone this season?
Well, it is a surprise, because a couple of weeks ago we were looking at them just getting hammered week in, week out. Sure, they've lost 11 or 12 games now.
Yeah, they have, yeah.
So it is a massive surprise to see them there. But I think, obviously, Colorado not playing has helped. But ultimately, and San Jose, who were, let's be honest, having a nightmare as well. Vancouver and San Jose being in the playoffs right now, I would have given you very, very, very big odds on that a couple of months ago.
Yeah. But this is why we love MLS. Right, a few more matches then. New York City beat Montreal 3-1. Chicago 2, Red Bulls 2. Minnesota 1-0 away at Cincinnati. Houston 1, Columbus 1. RSL 0. FC Dallas 0. But I want to talk about Nashville, because Nashville find themselves 8th, a strong first outing in MLS for them this season.
So good.
We put a tweet on at MLS UK show the other day, which was basically just, who do you support? I was just out of interest, we wanted to know, like, who our followers support. We had a lot of people from Nashville, so I want to talk about Nashville a little bit. Is 8th better than what you thought from this year?
100%. I'm so impressed with Nashville. They've in terms of a first season, it's been a difficult one. Let's be honest. Same for Miami, but they've won as many as they've lost. If you do that in your first season, great, because you've got the experience of losing the games. Ideally, you know where you went wrong. Some of them will be hammerings, and you just got to take them, because some of you're on the road. It's midweek, it's weekend, it's midweek, it's weekend. It's worse than ever in terms of the trips and the short recovery times and the turnarounds. They'll know now exactly where they're missing. On those midweek games where they have to rotate, they'll know where they've not got that depth that they need to improve on. They'll know exactly where their strengths are. They'll know who they want to hold on to. And with the possibility of a lot of trades, and the draft as well, they could be a real force next year. And I love what they've done. I love the branding. I love the kit. I've got the kit at home because the supporters generously sent it over. I love what they're doing, and I think that's such a really, really successful first season. If they make those playoffs, that is crucial.
Do you know what the most surprising thing for me is? So Zimmerman is playing really well.
Yeah.
People doubted that. People doubted that trade.
I don't understand that, though. I'm sure if you listen back to that episode, we were like, well, he's a great player.
That was a strong signing for Nashville. A player with MLS experience who had been in a big team, and sure, he'd not won anything at LAFC, well, apart from Supporters Shield.
Yeah.
But
But they'd have taken that. They'd have taken the supporter shield this year.
Yeah, they would. But he's come over with all that experience, and he's been strong for him. And Nashville, they're in the playoffs at the moment, only 4 points behind New England Revolution, who are 6th. So there's a chance for him to get in the playoffs. And playoffs, any team that gets in the playoffs in the first season, as you said, strong season, and he should be congratulated.
The only way that would have been a risky move, I think, is if Zimmerman got injured and was out for a long period, then you've spent a lot of money, wages on something that's not, you're not getting benefit from. But there was no way. I don't understand. We said this before on the podcast. Anyone who brings experience to a new team, especially, great. Yeah,
and there's Austin now can look at Nashville going into next season, and they can look at the way they've done it and see just bringing that MLS experience. I think Cincinnati the year before brought in probably too much of the same sort of experience, the same sort of player. It didn't work. Nashville have covered a few areas, and they've done very well.
Cincinnati had a big roster with not a lot in it, I think is the best way to describe it. If I'm being really brutal, even down to the keepers. They had 3 keepers. None of them were number one. They would just rotated the keepers. They rotated midfielders. Then they had people in on loan. It was a bit of a mess. And we all know my feelings on the striker that they brought in as well. But we won't go there. Genuine question. What's he doing now? Is he still there?
I think it's best we move on.
What's happening with Fernando Adi? Where is he? What's happening? Anyone seen Fernando Adi? I'm glad we got on to Cincinnati, though, because Cincy have given me an idea for today's Christ is Right.
Right. To play the theme tune and then tell me what it is. Come on.
Henry Hewitt, come on down. Absolute banger of a theme tune. It's typically a higher or lower guessing game. Done it a little bit differently this week, though. It's based on the fact that Cincinnati are ruining our theory. Do you know how we're always like, I love MLS because whoever finishes bottom, then they start to do better, and over the years they get better and better, and then they go and win something.
Not FC Cincinnati.
Not FC Cincinnati. They're just bottom again, unfortunately. So I'm going to give you a team and a year, and you've got to tell me whether they finished higher or lower the next year, okay?
Okay. Interesting.
So we'll start with Toronto in 2015. They finished 6th. Did they finish higher or lower in 2016?
We're talking Toronto into MLS Cup here, so higher.
It was higher. It was 3rd. In 2017, did Toronto finish higher or lower than 3rd?
Was that Supporters Shield season or was that 2018? I'm going to go higher.
It was higher. They won it. Okay, over to Philly. In 2017, they finished 8th. In 2018, higher or lower than 8th?
Lower.
It was higher. They finished 6th. In 2019, higher or lower than 6th?
That was last season. Lower.
It was higher.
Oh, no.
You can see the progression, like Toronto 6th, 3rd, 1st.
Yeah.
Philly 8th, 6th, 3rd. I want to do one with Galaxy as well. Let's get the music back. Come on. LA Galaxy, 2015, they finished 5th. In 2016, higher or lower than 5th?
I think they had one season higher and then it's just been progressively worse. So I'm going to say higher.
It is higher. Yeah. In 2017?
Lower.
Yes. Well done. It was 5th, 3rd, then 11th.
Oh.
Now, Colorado, 2015. Do you want to have a guess where they were?
10th.
10th. Bang on. 2016, higher or lower?
They wouldn't have been that many lower, so higher.
Higher. They finished 2nd. And then in 2017, higher or lower than 2nd?
Well, they're not going to finish 1st, are they? So lower.
10th. Back to 10th. 10th, 2nd, 10th. Thank you very much for playing today's Christ is Right. Henry Hewitt, go back up or whatever it is.
Thank you. Right, also, if you have a suggestion for Christ is Right, because fair play to you, you pull these out the bag every week.
Yeah, I'm running out though.
Running
out of ideas.
Email him, elliot@mls.show, or get in touch with @MLS UK show on social media, but start your tweet or your message with for Elliot's eyes only, so then I know, all right, okay, I'm just going to ignore this, because if I see it, it ruins the game.
Send me pictures as well for Elliot's eyes only.
Let's move on very swiftly. MLS, some talking points then, what has happened since we've been, since our last episode.
Yeah.
First one I want to mention is Chicharito. There's talks already that he's on his way out of LA Galaxy. Galaxy have come out and said no. And let me read you this quote.
Well, that's because they spent millions on him.
Let me read you this quote from Dan Beckerman, right? And this, I'll let me read the quote out, and then you tell me what's wrong with this quote.
Okay.
Javier is a landmark signing for our club and this league, highlighting our ambition to continue to be the best in Major League Soccer.
I've been watching MLS for quite a few years now. I've never seen them be the best.
No, especially this season as well. So, I mean, if you're going over the 25 years of MLS, then yeah, but
5 stars.
If you're going to do it recently, then...
The quest for the 6th star is ongoing and has been for a long time.
So Chivas in Mexico, rumoured to be wanting to get him in on loan. And, I mean, if he was to leave, it wouldn't surprise me if he left in the close season because it's just not clicked, has it?
I don't know a lot about the Mexican league. Chivas in the top Mexican league?
Yeah, it's Chivas Guadalajara, isn't it?
Okay, so my question to you is then, in a league that's, let's be honest, and it pains me to say it because I hate it, stronger than MLS, why are they going to take him? I know it's like where it all started for him and stuff, but why are they going to take him when he's literally scored 1 goal this season? He's missing sitter after sitter. The fans don't even care that he's not playing. He got left out of the team the other day and fans were like, never mind. Taylor Twellman said, "Oh, like they need Chicharito back," and the fans were tweeting like, "Have you watched us this season?" I think it's just. I don't think it'll come to anything because I don't see why LA Galaxy would spend all that money to then just let him go a couple of months later. There's no way, that might be an option for him in a couple of years' time, but he's going to have to suck it up and start scoring some goals.
I think for LA Galaxy, they need to bring in a head coach, and maybe Robbie Keane could be this head coach because he was a striker as well. A similar kind of player to Chicharito, but they need to bring someone in who is going to work with him, who's going to just light him up, make him feel big. Because quite clearly the head coach they've just had didn't do that. There's something not clicking. Chicharito, okay, probably since his Man United days has not been the player that what we've seen. He was at West Ham, Sevilla. He's not been prolific really anywhere where he's been. But you'd fancy him for LA Galaxy to do that. He's getting the chances and missing these sitters. You just need someone to come in, give him the confidence, and maybe that's next season. But as I said, I wouldn't be surprised if he left because it just has not worked. And you go from Zlatan to Chicharito, it's chalk and cheese at the moment.
But they need to get that money back. They can't. An MLS team can't afford to be wasting that much money and then letting him go. He needs a big money move if they're to let him go, and he's not going to get one at the minute.
No way.
You mentioned West Ham, and I want to talk about West Ham because they let Jack Wilshere go. I remember when I was in secondary school.
Yeah.
I went to watch the Norwich City, under 21s or whatever, play Arsenal. And Jack Wilshere was there as a 16-year-old, and he was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I have never seen a player stand out on a pitch that much. It was unbelievable. Obviously, he's been hit with so many injuries. Left Arsenal, which was sad because he'd been there, since he was a kid. West Ham let him go now as well because of injuries. He needs game time. He needs minutes. He's a free agent, and there's rumours he could be going to MLS.
Yeah. Do you want to know a fact about Jack Wilshere? A fact that literally only means something to me.
Is it to do with Bolton by any chance?
It is to do with Bolton.
Yeah.
So Jack Wilshere came on loan to Bolton.
I remember.
And again, was a really good player. And Jack Wilshere at that time became the first player to play for Bolton who was younger than me. So I'll always remember that.
I'm at that point now where Norwich are bringing these 18-year-old kids through, and when we say kids, I'm talking kids that Everton then buy for 30 million, for goodness sake. It's frightening. I'm just thinking, what am I doing with my life? I'll just do a podcast with this one, and I'm like, these other kids are worth 30 mil. So Jack Wilshere to MLS, what are we saying?
I think it could work. He's a good player. It's just the injuries, and he's good on the ball, and he would work for any team in MLS, in my opinion. That's how highly I rate him.
Where'd you play him? In that little Kante role?
Yeah, just stick him in the middle. Just stick him in the middle. He gets the ball. He runs with it a few yards, maybe goes past a few players and then passes it on. He'll get the odd goal. I think that's what I mean. In that role, it's not a glamorous role, but he could work for any team needs a player like that. Do you know, someone who can just get the foot on the ball and make some space or pass it on. And that's why I think he could work for anyone. If I had to guess who he would sign for, you're probably going to give the usual names, the likes of DC.
I was going to say DC.
Yeah.
DC need a Jack Wilshere.
I don't know. Red Bulls, I think, are looking for a DP. You know, so around that sort of area. But yeah, I think he could come into any team.
Okay. And finally.
Now this is really interesting. Actually, MLS. I mean, MLS get a lot of stick, and we see that in the UK. And sometimes it's easier, especially if you're living in the US or Canada, to sort of look at your own league and think you're not doing that right. But I think this is actually spot on what they're doing. So MLS have started a what's the term they're using for it? They basically announced a load of initiatives to fight social injustice and racism. Of course, we're still taking the knee in majority of games, and at the grounds there's lots of stuff in the stands and whatever saying no to racism. And MLS have basically started this initiative. They've got together with a load of players, black players in MLS, and yeah, they're looking to make the future, even though the present, especially, socially in America, we see a lot of what's happening, a lot of the protests, and, it's not nice to see, even though we're not there. But MLS, I think, as I said, there's things that they've done that you could do better. I think that night where Orlando and Nashville played and no one else did, I think that could have been a more collective thing. But I think overall, MLS are doing a good job, and this sort of stuff is spot on, and hopefully it will mean in a few years it'll be, it'll all be better. And
if we look at the way that they paved the way with things like VAR, I mean, and then the Premier League's had a bash at it, and let's be honest, it's not gone great. So hopefully a lot of other leagues will start to take from what MLS have done this year, because amongst what's been an awful year on and off the field for everyone, there has been good things that have come out of it, like the start of the MLS's back tournament, where it was a real statement. So the MLS has done some really powerful things. So hats off to them.
Yeah, and every owner has contributed $1 million to the Black Players for Change movement. So that is great. It's showing a collective that people really are sick of what's happening, and they want it to change.
I saw a few tweets on our Twitter, people suggesting places that we should go on Henry's Guide.
Shall we see where we're going?
I have no idea.
Yeah, so it's that time of the episode where we do another Henry's Guide to North America. And as you said, I did put it out to a lot of people on social media. A lot of people pointing out that some of the placements on the US
questionable
map,
geography from you there.
But
I'd like to distance myself from that graphic.
In the Midwest states, we have done quite a few, so they would be overlapping each other. So I had to move Kansas City up into Dakota. But anyway, that's okay, fine. My US geography is not great, but still, let's move on. So we had a lot of people suggesting different places, and we will do those in the next few weeks. For example, Philadelphia got quite a few. We will do that next time.
Atlanta got quite a few.
It did, so that'll come up as well at some point. None for Nashville, because we are waiting to the last one to do that because of the theme tune. But this week, because I think it's this week anyway, it is the US election, the presidential election. So I thought, well, there's no better time to do Henry's Guide to DC.
Henry's Guide to DC.
Hey, that could be a metaphor for the last 5 years in American politics.
DC, of course, famous for its country music.
Hey, Elliot.
Hey, Henry.
This is going to be a very political, as you can imagine with DC, all the facts are really to do with politics.
Okay, good.
Did you know that Washington, DC is named after George Washington?
Makes sense.
Yeah. The DC stands for District of Columbia. However, it may have been named after George Washington, but George Washington never lived in DC. In fact, the White House was only built the year after he died.
It's like you support Bolton, but you never lived there.
Yeah, I lived in the neighbouring town.
Glory hunter.
Anyway, moving on. The Washington Monument in Washington, D.C., that's the big pencil-looking thing. Have you ever been to...
Thanks for that.
Have you ever been to D.C.?
I haven't.
So you wouldn't have seen then that the Washington Monument is actually 2 different colours.
Is it?
Yeah, that's because halfway through they ran out of funding, and when they got it again, they had to use different brick.
It's like when you have an extension on your house, it's different. The bricks are newer.
Yeah, exactly. But when the Washington Monument did open in October 1888, it was the tallest man-made statue or monument in the world. That was only for 4 months until the Eiffel Tower was built. It's voting week this week. I think it's Thursday that the election is. However, it wasn't until 1961 that DC residents were actually able to vote. Because they are the capital, we don't have a member in the Senate, so they couldn't vote.
Wow.
Yeah. However, they may not be able to vote, but they can drink. DC residents drink more wine per person than any other state.
Yes, go on. That's where I can move to.
Considering that there will be quite a few politicians live there, that doesn't surprise me one bit. You love a museum.
Yeah.
You love the Spam Museum in Minnesota.
Oh, Spam Museum. That's what I'm all about.
This episode, we're going to do the International Spy Museum.
Spy Museum? How's that even a thing?
In Washington, D.C. They tell you how to be a spy and go through different spy stories. It's the only one in the world.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. Washington is known for its cherry blossom trees, and that is because it was a gift from Japan in 1912. They have over 4,000 cherry blossom trees in Washington. However, they love them so much that if you was to pick one or pick the flowers from them, it's actually considered vandalism and you could get done.
Wow.
It's federal property, cherry blossoms. And that is Henry's guide to Washington, D.C.
Where do we go next?
Philly.
I'm excited for Philly.
Yeah.
Philly.
It'll just make me want a Philadelphia cheesesteak. Guaranteed to get a mention next time. Philadelphia cheesesteak and Will Smith.
Yeah.
But if you've got any other facts that you want
to... And the bridge.
And the bridge, of course. Any other facts, then let me know. Email me, henry@mls.show.
I'm going out on a limb here.
It's
the Liberty Bell in Philly.
I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know where Kansas
City... We look really stupid now.
Yeah, I don't know where Kansas City is on a map. I'm not going to know that. But yeah, get in touch if you've got any facts about Philly at MLS UK Show on social media or henry@mls.show. Emails, and we'll do Philly next, and then we might do Atlanta the time after.
And if you're listening to this going, they are just so stupid, it's actually wound me up, try and put Bolton on a map or Norwich. It's difficult when it's not your country.
Yeah, we've seen them YouTube videos, like Americans pinpoint where stuff are, and then they put like...
You guess where Stoke is.
Yeah, they put Birmingham in like Japan. We've seen them. So it just happens all over the world. Right, let's look at what's happening in MLS then. There's midweek games, of course there is. And they're kicking off with Montreal v Nashville on Tuesday evening here in the UK at 11 o'clock. It's a weird time. Yeah,
Montreal-Nashville is a good one as well. I think when it comes to Nashville, we touched on them earlier. These are the sort of games where they really need to prove themselves. On the road, I know it's not in Montreal, but on the road, difficult game, and these are going to be the ones where we really get to see where they're going to place at the end of the season. So, Nashville, Montreal, Thierry doing an all right job, isn't he?
Yeah, at 11 o'clock. Oh, well, our clocks have gone back now, haven't they? For it's no longer British summertime. It's just normal time. So maybe we might get some better times then. Although moving to Wednesday morning at 2 a.m. tells me not. So this is Tuesday night in North America. Vancouver versus Seattle.
There's no way I'm watching this at 2 a.m.
Vancouver looking to continue their good run of form and consolidate their place in the playoffs. Seattle, I don't know. I've not got the table on me, but they're either 1 game or 2 games away from clinching, I'd imagine. So that's as well. So those are the matches on Tuesday evening. Wednesday, we've got Red Bulls versus New England, Cincinnati SKC, Orlando Atlanta.
Get in!
11:30.
Oh, I can feel it coming. Can you feel it coming? Thrashing.
The annoying thing is 11:30 is probably doable for me, but I might have an early night on Wednesday.
I have to get up at 4 a.m. and I'm still watching it. That's happening.
Philadelphia v Chicago, Toronto, New York City, which is always a good game.
Yeah.
And then we're moving into Thursday morning here in the UK. DC versus Columbus. DC looking to end the season on a high, I'd imagine. They're not going to do anything else.
Columbus is a tough game, though.
It is. They were my pick at the start of the season. Minnesota, Colorado, FC Dallas, Miami, Portland, LA Galaxy, LAFC, Houston, and San Jose RSL. So into the weekend then. So we'll talk a bit more about these games at the weekend. We've got the Texas Derby. Does that have a name? I don't know.
Probably.
Should call it the
We
Texas
should probably
Derby.
know.
So this is on Saturday at 7:30 here in the UK.
With our
Good
geography,
time.
it's a miracle we know they're both in Texas.
Yeah. A time that probably wouldn't be able to happen in the summer. It would be very warm, but now it's a bit cooler. Dallas can kick off at 7:30 against Houston. Always, you can never really know where to go with these games.
No, and to be honest with you, I've seen more of Houston than I normally do this year. I don't know why they never seem to be on at an appropriate time. But yeah, you're right. It's a tough one to call this, especially when you look at the table as well. I mean, Houston are fighting for that final playoff spot. Dallas are 4 points ahead of them, so it's going to be an important game, that one. On top of the normal rivalry as well.
Normally, FC Dallas Houston, you're just safe saying it's going to be a draw.
Yeah,
you'll get it right. Any one or two games seem to be a draw with them. Nashville versus Chicago, big game for Nashville. I think if they win this, then that'll be their place in the playoffs sorted. Although Chicago can still get in the playoffs.
Yeah, again, it's another important game for kind of the last few places that are up for grabs.
Columbus versus Philadelphia. This is at 8:30 in the evening here in the UK on Sunday. Now, if Columbus lose this, I think that is game over for them in terms of the Supporters' Shield. A win brings them right back into it, depending on what Toronto are doing. We've got the Hudson River Derby at midnight on Sunday. And then Atlanta versus
New York City
Cincinnati.
are at home there, by the way, worth noting.
Yes, this is nice. And I mean, New York City are probably sick of playing at the Revel Arena for a season. Atlanta, Cincinnati. If Atlanta lose that, then I'm just not turning up next episode. Montreal, Orlando. As an Orlando fan, so you were saying this off air, that it's weird for you now that Orlando have clinched their place. You kind of just...
That's our trophy. Honestly, it's been so many years of pain that clinching that playoff spot, I'm done. We all know it doesn't really matter where you finish in the playoffs. It's about what happens in the playoffs. Because we constantly see teams just scraping in and then going a long way into the playoffs. Look, I'm still going to watch the games. I love watching it, but it's taken away. That's our glory for the season. I don't care what happens from here on in.
So, for teams like yourself, and then let's say Columbus, because it seems to be Philly and Toronto fighting it out for Supporters' Shield, and then you look in the West as well, like Seattle, Portland, LAFC. How important is the end of a season?
I think it's different for Columbus, and it's because they've been in the playoffs before. We constantly see those highlights on Sky Sports, but because they were out there, they were doing really, really well at the start of the season. They were leading the pack, so I think it's important that they finish strong. Otherwise, it's going to look like they've really lost momentum. Whereas for Orlando, it's like, well, great, Pappy's come in, done it, smashed it first season. We're there, never been in this situation before. So I think it's different for the likes of Portland and Seattle. They've got, Orlando had a lot to prove, and they've got there. They've got across the line. So anything's a bonus for Seattle, for Portland. Minnesota probably as well, now that they've made the playoffs and they want to kick on and do better than they did before. I think this is where it becomes really important, actually.
I don't know. As someone who supports a team who's been in the playoffs quite a few times, I think the end of the season is important for momentum.
Yeah.
But we've seen it so many times before where teams have a really strong end to the season, scrape in last game of the season, and then a week later they're out. So it's pointless. So, I mean...
That will be us.
New England versus DC. New England, one of those sides who seem to be finishing quite strongly and are gonna get in there. I mean, Bruce Arena really has turned it around for them, hasn't he?
100%. I can't believe the transformation. That's so far, that is the biggest transformation I've seen in MLS, and that's saying something. But from last year, the start of last year to now, since Arena's arrived, is amazing. And they've not brought in a huge amount of players. A lot of it is largely that same group that were awful under Brad Friedel. So.
SKC versus Minnesota. Minnesota looks strong for a playoff place there. Again, we mention them all the time, but we love Minnesota. And it's not just because they've got a British head coach, but they have gradually, like Philadelphia, they've gradually got better and better and better. And you wouldn't be surprised if they make it quite far in the playoffs.
Minnesota win that, by the way.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
I don't know. SKC is strong at home.
Minnesota go and win that. Shock result.
Okay. Elsewhere, Toronto versus Miami. Now, that could be a bit of a shock result. Toronto coming off a 5-0 defeat, only just beating Atlanta, which is a bad result in itself.
Yeah, but they're going to come out. They're going to come out strong there. They have to bounce back. And I think, even though they're not technically at home, I think Miami having to travel doesn't help them either. So I fancy Toronto, definitely.
Colorado versus Seattle. Seattle will be looking to get back to the top of the West. Portland versus Vancouver. LA Galaxy versus RSL, which is end of the season for LA Galaxy, game over. However, they'll want to end on a bit of a high, which when they are actually in and around the playoff picture, they don't tend to do. So maybe now it's actually finished for them, they might do. And finally, San Jose Earthquakes versus LAFC. Need to say well done to Bob Bradley. He's tied third now with the all-time head coach wins in MLS, 169.
Wow. And that's a real Jekyll and Hyde situation. Who knows which San Jose and which LAFC are going to turn up and who's going to beat who?
Yeah, that's what we've been used to San Jose. We said on the... Actually, we pointed out LAFC and San Jose are the two sides who one week are doing great and winning, and the next time we are on the episode, they're not. So they can't both lose, so it'll be a draw.
Dare you to place a bet on that one. Before we wrap up, shall I reveal the Game of the Changing Name player?
Yes.
Or I could let you do it because you seem quietly confident as well.
Confident, yeah. He played for Christchurch. He then went to DC United.
Yeah.
He then went to Blackburn Rovers in the Premier League, Tottenham, QPR, went and managed Toronto. It is New Zealand centre-half Ryan Nelson.
You're right.
Yeah. I mean, I was like, oh my God, that's going to get clipped off and just used.
No, it's not.
No. Yeah, so well done if you got it right too. If you got in touch with us, we'll do another one next time. Remember, get in touch with Elliot at MLS.show if you've got an idea for the game with a changing name. It's basically a player who's played in both MLS and England or Britain.
Enjoy the feast of football stroke soccer that is continuing in MLS. We're in the playoffs, so I don't really care what's going on. Thank you very much for listening. I'm going to say bye, and Henry, as always, will say see ya.
See ya.